apply PR.
Okay. Now,
Right. Well, the work permit, again, the processing time varies on the type of position you're applying for. If it's an unskilled position, I think it's taking about 6 months now. Low wage position, high wage is taking about 3 months, and so it varies. But when the work permit is issued, I mean, part of that will be based on the job advertisements, but typically you're going to be issued for 2 years. Is what you're going to get a work permit.
yeah, what Brian was referring to is the time it takes to get the LMIA. Most work permits do require LMIA from the sponsor. Okay? Postgraduate work permit is LMIA exempt, but if the company is willing to hire you, you need to get the LMIA first in order to apply for the work permit. The processing time for the LMIA is 6 months for the unskilled, 3 months for the skilled. It varies. If it's a high-wage position, say $45 or more per hour, if the position is a very high-wage position, it can be processed within a week. Okay? Now, as Brian said, work permits are typically 2 years for skilled positions. Unskilled, you're gonna just issue for 1 year. You can extend it. Again, if you wanna extend it, you need to apply for the LMIA. Again, every time you wanna extend your work permit, you need to get the LMIA. Okay? So, you need to be very careful about the timing. Okay? If it's gonna be same employer, as long as the work permit application is in before it expires, you can continue to work as an implied status, but you have to have an LMIA in order to apply for the work permit. So, in advance, you gotta apply for the LMIA, you know, before the work permit expires, you know, because as I said, it takes about 6 months for the LMIA, right? So you need to have that in mind.
And there's other options besides the postgraduate work permit. If you're in most countries, if you're under 35, depending on where you're coming from, there's a working holiday program. I'm not sure if Vietnam is part of that program or not. But there are different, you know, categories that you could get a work permit without an LMIA. Some employers have already open LMIAs, meaning they've already applied to the government and they're just looking for an individual to fill that spot. Again, Canada is unique because there are just so many different type of programs that are out there. The best way we can help you is meet you one-on-one, or discuss with you even one-on-one what programs that you're available that you might be a match to you. Because with 70 or so different programs out there, you know, LMIAs, I mean, there is LMIA exempt. There's so many different ways that you could get a work permit. It really depends on your own background and your own situation. So it's not just a cookie cutter approach for everybody being the same.
But for example, one people who work for mushroom factory, after 4 years they work there, they can apply PR or not?
Now there is no such a thing that if you work for, say, a certain amount of years, then the PR is more guaranteed. No, there isn't such a thing. You have to be eligible for, as Brian said, there's many programs out there. You need to be eligible for one of those programs. Having worked 4 years in Canada, well, that's gonna get you a lot of points.
Yeah.
The CRS score will give you a lot of points.
You should qualify after working in Canada for 4 years. But
I think, but I mean, if they work at a mushroom farm or, you know, like a seasonal farm?
Well, they're going to be announcing, it has been announced, but the details are coming out in January about basically an agricultural workers, seasonal worker program that's going to lead to PR. The specific details of that program haven't been announced yet. They'd be announced probably end of December, beginning of January. But that's an opportunity for somebody that's working at a mushroom farm or blueberry cooking, something along that line, that they'll be able to qualify PR through their jobs that way. Yes?
So let's say about a high school student, right?
I'm sorry.
Let's say if I'm a high school student and I'm doing this one program, the district career program, right? It's for 2 years and it's for hairstylist. So do you still need to go to like a community college for a year or two to get the work permit?
Do you get licensed after the 2 years?
I'm pretty sure I get a certificate for the program.
I'd have to check, but I think if you get a certificate to qualify to be registered, that you don't have to go college for that, but I just have to double check with respect to hairstylists. I'm not 100% sure unless you know Stephen, do.
So I can just get a work permit right after, right? Or I have to apply for it.
See, I don't think you can get a work permit after high school, right? That's not considered post-secondary. What you could get is potentially, you might be able, if there is a working holiday program from Vietnam, you might be able to qualify under that. But again, it would be looking at your own individual basis, your own details to see which program you could qualify for, to try and get a work permit. Potentially, you know, again, if you can find somebody who's prepared to hire you and they could sponsor you for an LMIA, that would work as well. So while you're doing, let's say, your training or your co-op with part of that program, you could speak to the employer about whether they'd be willing to sponsor you.
Wait, so like how big does the company have to be to sponsor you, or?
Well, it depends on which program. I mean, if they're sponsoring under the British Columbia program, they need at least 5 employees.
Does it have, like, the company has to be established for some time, like, you know, more than 1 year? Is that good enough, or are they looking for more longer history of the company?
Well, again, it depends on which program you're looking for. In BC, you have to be established as a company and you have to have at least 5 employees. Generally speaking, it couldn't be a company that was just established. They don't want that. They want some sort of operating history, showing that they have the ability to pay the wages as well.
Right.
How can an employer or a company open an LMIA?
How can they? Well, there's a process. I mean, what they first have to do is they have to try and advertise for the position, and there's certain requirements that have to be met as to where they advertise that position, how long they advertise it, and they basically need to say that we couldn't find somebody after advertising that position. Then they can take your name or the name of any foreign applicant and send it into the government for approval.
And they have to get the interview, like, pretty much from officer.
Yeah. So what happens is it's handled by Service Canada. They'll phone the employer and they'll phone the employee and verify.
How long is that process?
It depends whether it's an unskilled or a skilled job. It's usually, it can, as Stephen said, for very high-end jobs, it can be as soon as a week. Most jobs based on a high wage, which is I think over $23 an hour, is it's done in about 3 months, 106 days, give or take. For low-skilled jobs, under $23 an hour. Right now, it's looking at about 6 months.
6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
About a family sponsorship, the income, could it be family income or
You and your
individual?
spouse, just you and your
Household
spouse.
income.
Combined income.
But then is it like because of the household income? So you have 2 people in your family size right now. So if you sponsor more, is that means that you have to
increases
have
the
more?
amount. That's
Oh,
correct.
yes.
Yeah.
It's only increase.
Is there any difference in opportunities for opportunity is getting apply for work permit and later on PR for graduates from college and graduates from university?
Is there a
any
difference?
different opportunity for them?
No. I mean, whether it's a college or university, as long as it's a recognized post-secondary institution. And the Government of Canada website, you can go in to see whether it's considered a recognized institution or not.
I believe the only difference is that the work permit, the postgraduate, the time of your postgraduate work
It
permit.
depends on the length of the program. Yeah.
I have a question. Is it possible that you apply for multiple programs at the same time, or is
That's a good question.
You can apply for multiple programs, but most of them have a declaration that you have to check to indicate if you have applied for other programs, because they want to know that when assessing your application. At some point in time, you'll need to commit to one program or the other, but nothing's preventing you from sending out all your applications now. And in fact, some of the programs you have to apply multiple times, because for some of the programs you have to put in an express entry profile before you can apply to. But from a practical sense, you could put in one in every province if you wanted to. You could put an express entry. You can file as many applications as you want, but once you start progressing on one of those programs, you're going to have to select which one you want to proceed with.
So in application concerning investment, you want as much income as possible, right? So
Well, you get more points the more you invest.
right.
So if you're investing, if you're investing $10 million, the rest of your qualifications would be pretty low.
Right.
But as for a student, usually the toughest part about the investment is you need proof that you have previous management experience, previous business ownership experience. So generally, as a student, it's really tough to qualify under one of the investment categories. Your parents might be able to qualify, but you wouldn't be able to qualify usually in most cases. Now there might be some exceptional.
Like for example, like if my spouse,
Yes.
like, and
Yeah.
you want as much income as possible, so it's not recommended to do like a lot of tax write-off or any of that.
Well, again, you want to show that it's a successful business.
Right.
Just having a business that is losing money, whether that's considered successful or not, I'm not sure. But certainly it's much easier to establish is if you show that the business is making money and is making a fair amount of money. It doesn't have to make millions of dollars, but it should be successful enough that you can support your family off.
Other questions?
Brian, could you give the audience a quick overview of all the business programs? Just like a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Brian.
I'd be here all day if I gave a summary of all of it.
Because as realtor, I am having some clients that want to come and buy an existing business, let's say a restaurant or a salon, and then they ask me, if they buy the business, how can they immigrate?
Well,
What category or what criteria they have to?
If they have previous experience in that business, they can apply under the owner-operator LMIA. They can also file an application potentially under BCPNP as an entrepreneur. Really, just buying a business by itself doesn't necessarily qualify them for immigration. And what we need to do is, again, we need their personal history to see what best is their category, the type of investment they're making, where the business is located. All these come into play.
Do they look at the background? Is it related to?
It makes sense, yeah, because if you're in hypothetically in the construction industry and you're buying an internet business here, it doesn't make sense that the two would match, and they question whether or not you could actually make a contribution to the business. So ideally, your background is similar to the type of business that you'll be operating in.
Right, it's so more chance that you will be successful.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And again, they also look at English ability. If your English ability is poor, again, what are the chances of the business being successful if your English ability is poor?
Right.
Other questions?
More questions. So, say like if the university has like job programs for students, I'm not sure if you are familiar with say UBC.
Yeah, you can work on campus, right?
Yeah, like those kind of work experience count?
It does.
Okay.
So no more questions, right?
Okay. Sneak in the back here.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, guys, thanks for attending the seminar. So, you have any question, please, you can handle the question with Tracy, with Tui. We're both working in the Vietnamese market here in the office. So, again, we have a Ho Chi Minh office in Vietnam, and we're going next Friday to Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi to doing some immigration seminars based in investment, based in education, and based in the work options. So, Paul can give you guys a small overview of the job matching we are doing in the office. We have some Vietnamese clients already on board. So Paul is the person in charge of the processing and doing the matching jobs. I guess, Paul, you can explain just a little bit about how we matching the jobs, how we can help them finding a job. Just a little bit, I guess they can understand.
Okay, so when we find a job, we need to focus on client's work experience first. So for example, if you have server work experience for 2 years, then you can be a server or you can be a food service supervisor. So then we will calculate your score about the BCPMP or express entry. So like if your education level is really high, like bachelor's degree or master's degree, and your English level is over CLB 7 or 8, then you will get enough point. Then we can give food service supervisor. Then I will try to find one restaurant to like support food service supervisor position, and we introduce your about your status to the employer. Then employer give confirmation to us. Then we will arrange the meeting and like interview or something. Then you guys have to, you and employer have meeting or interview, and you guys have to make the confirmation and start to work right away. Then we will take care of about you until you get a PR. So firstly, we need to focus on your work experience, education level, and English level.
Sorry, if the student just graduated from, and have no work experience, so what your suggestion now, where can they start?
Like, for example, administrative assistant position is NOC level B, skilled position. But the qualification, if you have at least 2 years of work experience in that field, or like diploma from like 2 years of college or bachelor's degree, that's the qualification. So even if you don't have 2 years of work experience, you still qualified because you have bachelor's degree or 2 years of diploma, right? Then you can be an administrative assistant. So postgraduate work permit, like usually the officer asks so many questions. If you receive the work permit based on the LMIA, then they will look over about your history, work history. So if you receive the LMIA as a food service supervisor, but you don't have any work experience in this field, but LMIA is the employer's information, so it could be approved, but you don't have work experience, then your work permit will be denied. That's why we focus on the work experience, right?
Okay.
But postgraduate work permit,